Okay, moving on to the next segment of today's show, the final segment of today's show. I wanted to talk a little bit about the San Francisco 49ers. And the 49ers, to me, are one of the most unique teams in the NFL. And more specifically, one of the teams that I am eyeing the most this offseason. And I'm going to tell you guys why. I think it was pretty clear to me that this season, even though the San Francisco 49ers missed the playoffs, the main reason for that was just injuries and COVID. Their starting quarterback missed 10 games. George Kittle was out for a long period of time. They had a Thursday night game against the Green Bay Packers where the NFL really probably should have canceled it because the 49ers, half of their team was out with COVID, and they still won some games with C.J. Beathard as their starting quarterback, so they weren't bad. But I think, Andrew, when you look at the San Francisco 49er team and the coaching ability of Kyle Shanahan and the fact that Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, guys like that, they're going to get another year in that system. Hopefully Raheem Mostert will be 100% healthy along with Tevin Coleman as well. I think the 49ers are not that far off from being a real contender, which was why I thought Matthew Stafford could have been a real possible destination for San Francisco. Now, unfortunately, your division rival, the Rams, get him. So if I'm the 49ers, who should our quarterback be on opening day next year? And Andrew, I'm going to tell you this, my guy. One name that has serviced a lot has been the guy that has been in conversation for the Jets' possible starting quarterback. Not now, but a couple years ago. And this is actually a guy that during that time, Kyle Shanahan really wanted in San Francisco because he coached him in Washington as the offensive coordinator, and that is Kirk Cousins. Andrew, if you're San Francisco, would you be willing to give up maybe a first or second round pick like the Rams did with Matthew Stafford in order to get a guy like Kirk Cousins?
Yeah, I think he would be a really good fit because, I mean, Shanahan, I think he worked really well in the Shanahan system back in the Washington football team. And I think, see, the question is, I don't think he's at the level of Matthew Stafford. I don't think he can play at that elite level like we see Stafford play in. So I think that, but I don't even think they need someone like that. I just think they need a durable guy who can get the job done and can make a few big throws. And, I mean, they have a great run game back. You know, like you saw Kirk Cousins play really well in the Minnesota when he had a good run game. And, Dalvin Cook paving the way and a great play action. He's really accustomed to that system. So that was a really good idea for me. And I think that would be a good fit.
Well, let me ask you this, though, dude. Yeah. I think there's some similarities with Kirk Cousins and Jared Goff. I think you could make the argument, Kirk Cousins is better than Jared Goff, but Kirk Cousins, I think, is a quarterback, considering his contract, that the Vikings would have no problem dealing. Like, none at all. But if you're San Francisco, are you willing to take that money from Cousins' contract, along with the money you're still paying Jimmy Garoppolo? Because that's where the other similarity comes in. The 49ers last year were in the conversation for Tom Brady. They were in the conversation for possibly getting a new quarterback, but 49er fans always fell back on, okay, Jimmy Garoppolo, is he the best quarterback? No. Is he an elite quarterback? Probably not. But he still showed us the ability to get this team to the Super Bowl. It wasn't that bad. But this past season, I believe one of the main reasons why the 49ers were not a playoff team was because their quarterback got hurt and missed 10 games. And it's not like this is the first time this has happened. Jimmy Garoppolo has shown us over the last couple of years he has had trouble staying healthy. So if you're a 49er fan, if you're Shanahan and Lynch, would you feel comfortable bringing Jimmy G back? Because if you don't, you're probably going to have to pay him and another quarterback.
Yeah, no, I don't think Garoppolo is actually. I don't think he's a franchise quarterback because part about being a franchise quarterback is that you gotta be able to play on the field consistently. And for the last 3 seasons, he's missed 23 games. And when he's able to play on the field, he does a really good job, and he's able to take the team to a Super Bowl. But if you can't be on the field and you can't play, then it doesn't matter how good you are. So I think that's one bad thing, and I think there's obviously room for improvement. If you're the Niners, I wouldn't mind if there's some possibility having a trade with the New York Jets, bringing in Sam Darnold for a second or maybe 2/3, because then you get Sam Darnold for extra cheap for this next year or two, and you can move on for Garoppolo after, and you got a guy that has a lot of potential. He is really good in the West Coast scheme, and that's what his best play style is. And there's a very good team around him. And paying a quarterback super cheap with having a really solid defensive team around him, I think Sam Darnold will be a really good fit for them. Dropping off a second or a late first for a guy like Sam Darnold who has a lot of potential potential, has shown flashes for the Jets, and is super cheap. I think it just makes a lot of sense as well. The thing is, with Kirk Cousins, you're going to have to give up a lot of draft capital because...
Well, dude, I don't necessarily know.
You can't have Kirk Cousins.
If you give up... Like, the problem with Kirk Cousins is, like, you're still going to be paying him a lot. Like, that's why the Vikings probably, I think, are going to want to get rid of him. So I think if you are the Niners, like, I don't think it's going to cost... It'll cost you, like, maybe a first and a third, maybe a first and a fourth. And, like, Cousins... Like, dude, I like the Sam Darnold idea. My only thing is Sam Darnold still hasn't proven to us that he could win. Like, I get that he has a bunch of potential, but... I think there's a better chance at Kirk Cousins just coming in and being stable. Like, I don't think if you bring in Kirk Cousins, he's going to bust. Like, I think you know what you're getting. With Sam, I think it would be, like, a better move for a team that needs a little bit more from the quarterback position. I think Sam in Carolina wouldn't be too bad of a fit. But I think if you're San Francisco, I agree. Those are two names you would definitely want at the top of your board. I just think Cousins is the more veteran guy with experience in the Shanahan system. If I'm the Niners, I'd be willing to give up a little bit more money and a little bit more draft capital to get a guy like Cousins. But I do like the Darnold idea, too. I do.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying with, a veteran proven guy. I'm just wondering, like, how would that fit, though, if you have, like, you're paying, what do you call it? Kirk Cousins and then Jimmy G.
You would have to trade Garoppolo. Yeah, you would have to trade Garoppolo, and I think New England is the spot for him, man. Like, I don't know if you saw something we didn't mention with Stafford was that did you see the one team he didn't want to go to the Patriots, and everyone is saying, oh, it's Matt Patricia this and Matt Patricia that. No, I just think the reason why Matthew Stafford didn't want to go to New England, and this is a future podcast topic I wanted to talk about with you, is the Patriots. And just like, bro, no one wants to go there. Tom Brady, it wasn't all his, reasoning that they won 6 rings, but Tom Brady is the system. Like, no one wants to go to New England when he's not there. So I think that could be a possible landing spot for Garoppolo. But if you're San Francisco, dude, let me ask you this. What do you think about drafting a quarterback? You have the number 12 pick. Kyle Shanahan hasn't drafted a quarterback in the first round since he's gotten to San Francisco. Do you think that could be a realistic option with the number 12 pick?
I don't, unless they trade up and make a big splash and get like one of the top 3 quarterbacks like Zach Wilson. I mean, not Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson or Justin Fields. I think that would be the only smart option. Because what's good in doing, like if you're going to go for a young quarterback, I mean, why not go for Sam Darnold to just start, because he's like a young guy that has a potential, a lot of experience. I don't see them, drafting a Trey Lance or someone like that because, you're going to be wasting a lot of years of your defense of guys like Nick Bosa and, Javon Kinlaw, those young guys that are only going to get paid in the future as every year passes. I think they're in win-now mode and, they have a really good defense and a solid offensive group, and I think that, the best direction for them to go is to, go for at least someone like a rookie. I just don't think that they could win now with a rookie, especially with that 12th pick. I don't see what you're going to get exactly out of, any of the guys that will go deeper into the draft. So that's why I think, drafting wouldn't be that smart for them.
Well, one thing I'll say about this, dude, I agree with you in the sense that when it comes to a rookie quarterback, there's no guarantees. But I'll say this. The Kansas City Chiefs in 2017 were in a similar spot, I think, to where San Francisco is right now. As good as a quarterback as Alex Smith was with the Chiefs, I think their management and Andy Reid kind of realized as good of a team as we are right now, we're kind of being capped at 10 wins. And we need a quarterback to put us over the top. So I think if you're San Francisco and you evaluate, it all comes down to evaluation, dude. If they're evaluating Zach Wilson and they're evaluating Justin Fields and they have a thing like, they have an urge and say, like, man, this kid could be a star. I wouldn't necessarily have a problem with them drafting a quarterback, maybe sitting him down for a year, because let's keep in mind, dude, we didn't know Patrick Mahomes was going to be this when the Chiefs drafted him. He wasn't the number 1 pick. He went number 12 overall, and he sat on the bench his whole rookie year. I think if you're San Francisco, imagine if you have a stud, imagine you put Justin Herbert on the 49ers, like a stud, young, developed quarterback, that, as good as winning one or two Super Bowl titles with Kirk Cousins if everything works out, and you're gonna need a lot to work out if you're getting a guy like Kirk Cousins. Like, bro, if you draft your own quarterback and develop him, I think you could have a dynasty in the making. I do.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that perspective, and it does make sense. It just I think they're gonna have to fall real in love with whoever they draft. I don't know. I mean, I haven't really taken that much look into the quarterbacks for this upcoming draft, but I don't know if they have that the potential of Pat Mahomes or
one thing I will say is obviously it's going to be very hard to beat Patrick Mahomes, but reports that I've heard, and like you, I'm a casual college football fan, but the reports I've heard is that the quarterbacks in this year's class, and this is Lawrence along with everyone else. This goes, Mac Jones from Alabama, Kyle Trask from Florida. These quarterbacks in this draft are better than the one next year. So I think that's something to keep in mind as well.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if they, for me, I would personally, I don't know if it's my Jets bias, but I think Sam Darnold would be a good option. But if you have this, if you're really in love with this guy that you see and he's on the 12th or you want to trade up, that definitely could be a good option as well. Personally, I think they were win-now mode because the thing with the Chiefs is, Alex Smith was playing it and they weren't making it. I mean, these Niners made it to the Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo. I feel like, if you're like the Rams, if you were the Rams and thinking like the Rams, why not think like the Rams? Your team is right there. All you need is a little better quarterback or a guy that can actually stay on the field and you can make. I mean, they went to the Super Bowl, so they could definitely go past it.
I think ultimately it just all depends on what are you willing to risk, bro, and what are you willing to risk based on the evaluations that you're making. And I think if I'm a 49er fan, no matter where you go at the quarterback position, you just gotta trust Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch and their judgment. Have they been perfect since they've taken over? No, they drafted Solomon Thomas with a number 2 overall pick. Or number 3 overall pick, I should say. But they also gave Jimmy Garoppolo a lot of money, and they were heavily criticized for it. And it's looking like that contract isn't really going to be working out. So the 49ers have plenty of options to possibly look at. I think this is one of my big storylines going into this offseason is what San Francisco does at quarterback.
Yeah, Zach. And I have one question for you. So why? I just want to how come? Would you want? Why not the Niners do what the Rams did and take a shot?
Well, let me ask you this, dude. I think if you brought up the concerns about Matthew Stafford, and is it a good trade for the Rams? Yes, and ideally on paper is a Rams team with much better quarterback play going to be very good, hopefully. But next year, as good as Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey are, maybe I'm just playing devil's advocate. If the Rams defense takes a little bit of a step back, Matthew Stafford has never won a playoff game. And Kirk Cousins, he has a playoff win, really nice road win against the Saints. But at the same time, he's never shown us the ability that he could win a Super Bowl. As great as the 49ers are, and as great as a coach as Kyle Shanahan is, the 49ers would have won that Super Bowl if Jimmy Garoppolo makes that throw to Emmanuel Sanders. And when sometimes in the crunch time, when you need the guy to just be able to make a play, you need that franchise quarterback. And sometimes the easiest way to getting that quarterback, if you really trust your coach and your GM and your development, the best way sometimes could be drafting that quarterback. Everyone has a different path to a possible championship. So if you're San Francisco and you look at a Wilson or a Fields and you're evaluating them and say, okay, that's the guy, I think with the proper grooming and coach. Dude, Josh Allen is another guy. No one thought Josh Allen was ever going to be this good. When Josh Allen was coming out of the draft, if you'd have asked anyone, who would you rather have right now, Josh Allen or Kirk Cousins, everyone would have said Kirk Cousins, bro. And Josh Allen right now is a significantly better player. So it all comes down to your judgment and your evaluation, I think.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. And, I think it's just very tempting for this organization because they were so close to it literally a year ago to winning it all. And now you're questioning your quarterback. For me, so my final stance is, go for a season bet, like Kirk Cousins or Sam Darnold. But, if they feel like they have a guy that they love and they could develop and, the next Pat Mahomes type of thing, that's good. But that I I rarely see that happen. You know, I mean, you need someone special like Andy Reid.
But Kyle Shanahan's that guy, dude. You know?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and we'll see, man. I don't know. I think that's just. It's just because this is a big decision. Whatever they do this offseason, it's going to determine the rest of the course of this organization for the next 5 years. Because, you know, you move on. If you take an older quarterback, you might miss out on a younger guy. We'll see. You know?
Yeah. I just a couple quick points to close it off. When you said, it rarely happens, I agree that it rarely happens. But maybe, as you mentioned earlier, that Jet fan bias. There are plenty of quarterbacks now that are getting drafted, and with proper coaching, they're getting the job done, and they're looking ready to play much earlier than expected, bro. Like Justin Herbert. I was criticizing Justin Herbert a year ago at this time. At Oregon, he never showed me the ability to win the big game, but he just has it. And the Chargers, while evaluating him, were just like, all right, he has it. We want him. The same thing with Josh Allen, the proper grooming and the proper development. I think if you're San Francisco and you see a quarterback you want in the draft, you shouldn't be scared to take it because as great of an option as Kirk Cousins or Sam Darnold may be, they haven't shown us the ability yet to make that big throw in the Super Bowl that Jimmy Garoppolo was not able to make. Now, one other quick thing I wanted to close on this. How crazy is it if you're the 49ers... About a year ago at this time, Tom Brady called you up and he was like, I want to come home. I want to play for these guys. And they were like, you know what? We understand Jimmy Garoppolo isn't the perfect quarterback, but he's a young option. When you're evaluating the quarterback position, you rarely want to get older and more expensive. And that's what would have happened if Brady would have came. But it's pretty easy to say right now if Tom Brady's on the 49ers, who knows where we are, man.
Oh, they're in the Super Bowl, I think, because I mean, just imagine, you have Gronk, Kittle, and then you bring Antonio Brown on that team with that defense. Well, if no one was injured, I think they'd be in the Super Bowl right now. And that's kind of, I mean, there's opportunities you have, and I think they struck out on it because if Tom Brady wanted to go to the Niners and they were in a win now mode, they were literally in the Super Bowl a few months before, I would have made that deal. And now that it's like
it could be a decision that haunts them for a long time, man.
It could be, yes.
So 100%. Andrew, I just wanted to say once again, thank you so much for joining me. Always a pleasure having you on the show. Enjoy the Super Bowl. It's crazy, man. Football season. I had you on this podcast right before, going over all our predictions, and now a couple months later, we are out here going over the Super Bowl, man, and getting ready for another offseason. But one thing I know for sure is it's going to be a crazy, hectic offseason with all this quarterback carousel going on. Just wanted to say, once again, thanks for joining me, and I'm sure you're going to be on once again pretty soon.
Yeah, man, appreciate it, and thank you so much for having me on this, man. It's been a hell of a fun time with you. I love talking football, and the Super Bowl is going to be great, and I'm really excited to see what happens this free agency. So thanks a lot, Zach. And,
all right,
thanks for everyone listening. Yeah,
no problem, man. I'll talk to you soon. All right.